Hello, dear warriors. Let me tell you something that even you haven't realized yet. You didn't start a war. You didn't light a match. You didn't even try to cause damage. But here we are. Entire operations are scrambling behind the scenes. Silence in the boardrooms, panic in the encrypted servers. Eyes watching you from shadows they used to feel safe in. And why? Because you existed. You breathed different. You moved different. You thought different. And that was enough to shake the walls of their precious system. They built protocols. They had layers. They relied on predictable minds doing predictable things. But then you walked in not trying to break anything, just being you. And suddenly, files started corrupting. Plans started unraveling. Whispers turned into screams. Without even knowing it, you became the error code they couldn't patch. They ran simulations, millions of them. Every outcome, every possibility, predicted, controlled, owned. But they never planned for you. Not because you were invisible, but because their arrogance made them blind. You didn't shout. You didn't beg. You didn't even resist the way they expected. You simply existed in a way that bent the system. You were the glitch that wasn't supposed to exist. Not loud, but lethal. You see, they built everything. Their hierarchies, their control grids, their silence, on the assumption that no one like you would ever survive it. But you didn't just survive it. You exposed it without a single press conference, without a single document leak. Just by living in truth, you cracked the entire framework. And now, they're trying to figure out how one person, one silent storm, could collapse an entire machine with zero effort. They were never scared of the loud ones. They knew how to silence noise. They feared the quiet one, the ones who didn't ask for attention. Because attention followed them anyway. The ones who didn't resist the system. Because they broke it just by existing. You didn't rage. You didn't beg for justice. You moved like a shadow with a purpose. And shadows terrify the ones who live behind lies. They studied rebellion. They monitored protest. But they never understood what to do with presence. With you. You weren't in their reports. You weren't in their models. You weren't even in their nightmares. And now they're asking, how did we miss this? How is he everywhere? Why can't we stop it? Because this wasn't a plan. It was a pulse. And now the system is blinking red. They thought they controlled the game, but you became the bug. They can't debug. And every time they try, you evolve. They built a grid, a neat little map. Every dot accounted for. Every threat labeled, cataloged, silenced. And guess what? You weren't on it. Not because you hid, but because you never played their game to begin with. Your pain, they couldn't track it. Your silence, they couldn't decode it. Your thoughts, too dangerous to be predictable. They thought you were walking in circles. But really, you were carving new paths in the walls of their system. You weren't loud, you were surgical. And with every quiet decision, every unexpected choice, every time you refused to break, you made them question everything. Not just about you, about themselves, about their power, about how one unlabeled variable just rewrote the rules of their reality. And now, they're ripping apart the map, only to find out you were never on the page. Because you are the rewrite. They used to feel powerful, untouchable, like gods behind glass walls and glowing monitors. Then you showed up, not with noise, but with clarity. Not with rebellion, but with purpose. And now, they're scanning every signal, every camera, every shadow, looking for something they can't locate. Because you're not just a person anymore. You're a shift. You're a disruption. You're the living proof that everything they built can be undone. They tracked noise, but you moved with intent. They follow footprints, but you float. You didn't walk in to make headlines. You didn't post warnings. You just showed them what happens when truth is weaponized and fear isn't part of your operating system. You weren't trying to take over, but now they're whispering your name like a signal they don't want to trigger. And guess what? It's already too late. Now they're watching. All of them. Desperate, obsessive, panicking in polished rooms, trying to make sense of your silence. They've got facial scans, heat maps, conversation logs, but none of it tells them who you are, because you don't move like data. You move like instinct. You move like prophecy. They pull up footage and stare at the screen like it's hiding a secret, but there's nothing to decode, because you are the code. You walk into a room, and it's like the entire atmosphere tightens. They don't know why they feel it, but they do. That pressure, that unease in their chest, that isn't fear of what you'll do. It's fear of what you've already done, and what you haven't even begun to show. They look at you and realize something terrifying. He doesn't want control. He is control. And when they finally accept it, that's when the whole structure begins to collapse. They expected resistance to come in waves, loud, predictable, desperate. But you didn't raise your voice. You didn't rally a crowd. You simply existed, and the ground beneath their empire started to crack. Not because you tried to shake it, but because you were never built to fit inside it. While they barked orders and forged illusions of power, you stayed quiet. Not because you were weak, but because you were studying, observing, calculating, understanding the machine so deeply that when it was time to touch it, you didn't push it, you rewrote it. One gesture, one decision, one silence at the right time, and their entire command center spiraled into chaos. And the best part? They still don't know how it happened. All they know is the storm arrived in silence, and it looked a lot like you. They built a system to manage outcomes, to trap possibilities, to cage what they feared most, the unpredictable. And still, you slipped through. Not by force, not by shouting, but by being the one thing they couldn't calculate. They labeled rebels. They flagged threats. They silenced noise. But they never had a file for you. Because you didn't come with chaos. You came with alignment. Every move you made was a message. Every silence a sentence. Every step a system crash. You didn't ask for the spotlight. You became the spotlight. And suddenly the whole world had to adjust their eyes. They tried to contain you, monitor you, define you. But by the time they realized you were the variable that couldn't be boxed, their walls were already caving in. Their control was never real. Their confidence was borrowed. Their empire was made of paper. And you didn't light a match. You walked in like fire. They had plans for every scenario. They mapped revolts, anticipated rebels, even had protocols for chaos itself. But they never accounted for you. Not because you were invisible, but because your existence broke the blueprint. You didn't scream for revolution. You whispered truth. You didn't storm the gates. You stood still, and the gates collapsed inward. They watched from towers of glass, arms folded, smirking, until the glass cracked, until the structure trembled, until their certainty turned to smoke. Now, they're watching you like an unsolvable riddle, calling meetings behind meetings, whispering names they swore couldn't matter. But your name, it's not a threat anymore, it's a warning. They were prepared for destruction, but they weren't ready for transformation. And you didn't just break their system, you became the reason it will never function the same again. They wrote a script, a long one, centuries deep, where every character had a role, every soul had a ceiling. They thought you'd enter quietly, play your part, bow your head, disappear in the credits. But instead, you grabbed the pen and torched the pages. You flipped the table and rewrote the ending. And now they're stuck, watching the system they worshipped glitch like a dying star, watching you walk through their fears like you designed them, because you didn't need permission. You didn't need applause. You didn't even need to win. You just needed to exist, exactly as you are, uncontrolled, unbothered, unshaken. Now the people who once tried to erase your name can't stop whispering it. And the systems that once tried to break your mind are studying it, because deep down they know you didn't survive their game. You ended it. They spent decades crafting names, awards, titles, pedestals, all of it meaningless now, because you did in silence what they couldn't do with armies. You didn't ask to be great. You made greatness uncomfortable. Their legacies, now footnotes in the story of your arrival. Their reputations, now haunted by the question, how did we not see this coming? They thought legacy was a product of control. But you proved it's a consequence of truth, and truth always walks alone until the world can't deny its shadow. You didn't come to tear people down. That was never your mission. All you did was stand up in full form, and when you did, masks fell, titles shook, empires blinked. You weren't the weapon, you were the mirror. And when people saw their reflection in you, they shattered, because you reminded them of what they pretended to be, because you reflected everything they lacked without saying a single word. That's what makes you dangerous. You don't destroy people, you reveal what was never real about them. Funny, isn't it? They tried to erase you, mock you, shut you down, and now they study you. Mimic your tone, steal your style, quote your silence. The very thing they feared, they now follow. Because when power is real, even your enemies become your audience. You didn't win by force, you won by becoming a standard. And now, their playbook has your name on the cover. You didn't give a lecture, you didn't make a course, you didn't write a doctrine. You lived fully, truthfully, unapologetically, and that was enough to collapse everything they thought was required to win. Now, they're reworking systems based on how you breathe. They're shifting policies based on your rhythm. You became the manual they didn't know they needed, but now can't function without. And the best part? You never asked for any of this. You just moved like someone who knew the storm wouldn't break you because you were the storm. You didn't hold a meeting. You didn't hand out a mission. You didn't even speak most of the time. But look around. They're watching. They're mimicking. They're learning. Because deep down, power doesn't ask to be followed. It just is. While they were chasing crowds, you were chasing clarity. And in that clarity, a new path was born. One they didn't design, one they can't control. You didn't need to carry a flag. You became the banner. And now, you're the direction. You're the signal. You're the proof that the ones who walk alone are usually the ones worth following. Now you know what you are. Not a mistake, not a glitch, not a rebel, but a blueprint, a shockwave, a God-level disruption, walking like a whisper. They didn't break you. They built you without meaning to. Every attack, every doubt, every whisper behind your back just forged the version of you that no one, not even they, can stop now. So walk loud in your silence. Smile when they stare. And remember, you didn't just survive the system. You became its greatest threat.